Welcome to the Cape and Islands Podcast YouTube channel, where we cover local people, their stories, a little bit of history, important community topics, but most of all, we work to build a stronger community. Today, I'll be speaking with Amanda Converse, co-founder of Love Live Local, a 501c3 that recently celebrated its 10-year anniversary. Welcome to the Cape and Islands Podcast, Amanda Converse.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. This is going to be a really cool episode because you're doing so much for the whole community and you've been doing it since 2013. So you're coming up on the preteen years of business.
We are. Yeah.
So 10-year anniversary was last year.
Yep.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah. So Love Live Local, we started it as a sort of side hustle passion project in 2013 and became a full-fledged nonprofit in 2020. So last year was 10 years and we're going to keep on ticking away.
That's amazing. And so you and Jen Villa co-founded
along with Kate Sheehan. So we had three co-founders.
Yeah,
Yep. And then, Kate went on to pursue other career opportunities, but she has maintained, she calls herself cheerleader in chief.
Yeah.
But she is the president of our board of directors. So she's definitely still very much involved.
Yeah. And I love Kate, and both of you have been in here a bunch of times, and
we love shopping local.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, I know it personally at my little shop, and you guys have been so supportive. So it's been really cool to see, just even in my short time on Cape Cod, the growth of what you do with Love Live Local and all the different, the guides that you do, obviously the festivals and the brick and mortar.
Yeah.
So you've got 100 local artists in Hyannis that you support directly online and in the brick and mortar. How does that go for you? Because you've got a lot of artists that you're managing there.
Yeah. Well, we originally started Love Live Local as it was just a monthly email, and it was really to start highlighting positive things that were going on in the community, and a lot of it centered around our local businesses. We were small business owners at the time. I owned a retail store called Shift. It was an eco boutique. I owned it for 9 years in downtown Hyannis, and we started looking around, and there weren't a lot of people saying, choose local, think local first, shop local. I think there was a really robust buy local food movement, but it didn't really expand, like ripple out into other sectors. And as a retailer, I was very much wanting people to shop local. And so it evolved from that email into, like you said, the festivals where we looked at Boston basically doing these huge, festivals with artists and artisans and makers and brands. And we were thinking, we have so much talent here on the Cape, we should do that here.
Yeah.
And so then the festivals happened, and then we wanted to highlight them, all of these local businesses in print. And so we have the field guide, which is, a truly local guide to the Cape. And then the store came in 2018. And again, it was, how can we, connect these local makers more with consumers, and give them those economic opportunities. And with that store, we do a lot of, I call it our little incubator, because we do a lot of kind of mentoring with the makers, just how to wholesale, how to set your prices, how to evolve your product line, and really kind of talking them through that. And that really does feed into our mission as a nonprofit, which is to strengthen Cape Cod's local economy by promoting the importance of small business and fostering a thriving community. And we do it through like all of those things that we just talked about, but also through education, advocacy, and direct support to the local businesses. So
yeah. It's amazing. Honestly, the amount of artists that I meet here, it's all local artists, and and I think that's why we got along so well right at the beginning, but how many artists?
These are my people. Yeah,
right? Totally.
Yeah.
And then you run into all these artists that want to get into the shop, and I love that. And so many of them don't know anything about how to do the wholesaling or how to even approach a shop.
Yep.
And then what's consignment?
Yeah.
And what's a reasonable rate?
Right.
I remember when my sister, she has sold in galleries, and I think you've bought some of her jewelry in the past. And Kate has too, actually.
Yeah.
And she told me what the rates were when you open a shop and what the galleries take. And I was sort of like, whoa,
Yeah.
that's a steep rate. But now that I own a business, I get it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, it is. There is that balance there. Cause you've got to sustain your brick and mortar. And also as a brick and mortar, you've got all these overhead costs that you're dealing with too. So, I think if you can find really good products that your customers connect to, then, that relationship will just grow and grow and grow. And regardless of the consignment rate, there's obviously a fairness level there, but,
Right.
That it will be mutually beneficial,
Yeah.
and that's what you want to find, those kinds of, and I think, we work with, a lot of the local makers. We have a workshop series that we put on, help with technical assistance for local makers to help them kind of navigate a lot of this stuff. There are a lot of great organizations on the Cape offering programming for, fine artists and artists that musicians and things like that. But we, as people who run shows where there's pop-up vendors that are, skincare products and soaps and sweatshirts, and they don't really fall under some of that stuff. So we've been able to really offer some assistance there as well, and try to help them kind of grow their brands.
Yeah. And that's huge. And I think I always tell the artists too that, yeah, the shop is taking a certain percentage, but this is an ad. This shop is an advertisement for what you do. Yep. And I know you do, and I do too. I'll give out the business cards for the artists, like as a big part of this. Like, hey, you can go direct to the artist too.
Yeah. And they've got so much more to offer. We have a small pocket of their stuff, and there's so much more. Yeah, I mean, we're both very mission driven in that it's a collaboration. So you want to help the customer, not just connect with you in your shop, but also the local maker.
Right. 100%. And I wanted to ask you also about the field guide and the gift guide, which are two things I've advertised in both in different times. And just so people know, what's the big difference between the two, and what do they both do?
Sure. So our Love Local field guide is, we call it the best way to discover the Cape's locally made, grown, and owned. And all of the advertisers in there and all of the content is centered around local businesses. We do, it's like, if you want a truly authentic experience of Cape Cod, that is the guide that you want. And we feel really passionately about giving people a truly local experience in that. And the great thing is that visitors love it, but locals love it too, because we are made up of 15 towns. There is a lot to discover. Orleans, if you live in Orleans, you can drive to Falmouth and spend the day there. And,
right.
And this guide can help you do that. We also, in that guide, we talk a lot about our advocacy work, and we try to educate consumers on the importance of our local businesses. The Love Local gift guide is, we release around the holidays, and it's really a guide for people who are trying to find local, like to shop local for the holiday shopping season, which we hope is everybody. And so we literally traverse Cape Cod, go into as many retail stores as we possibly can, that are locally owned, and we pick out products to feature in the gift guide. And we have dozens upon dozens of items in there. And so people can pick it up and see something they like to possibly get mom or their sister or their husband, and they can call a local store, and I'm sure the local store will ship it to them, or they can physically go to the store and buy it. And that's all, all of this is, both of those publications are advertising supported. They are free to the consumer to pick up and take. And they are also a fundraiser for the nonprofit. So it's kind of, it's a lot of things at once, but we put a lot of heart into those publications, and we work really hard to make sure that they are not just what the consumer needs, but what the local businesses need too.
Right. And so you've been doing those guides, I think, the whole way through, or?
So the field guide was started in 2015. And then the gift guide was 2018, but, or it was 2019, I think. But that was because I had It's very confusing. I have like a very long storied past. I had produced a fashion magazine for the Cape, and we kind of transitioned it into the Love Local gift guide. So I had been producing a gift guide like that for many years, but we just expanded it and made it much bigger through Love of Local. And that was when 2019 was when I let go of my own local businesses to focus full time on Love of Local.
That's awesome. See, to me, because I opened in 2018. It feels like you've been around doing those guides the whole time.
Yeah, I like that.
Yes. Yeah. It feels like it's just a normal course of everything, which is good.
Yeah.
But that's great. So you've been able to start doing this full time.
Yes.
And you have the chops already of doing these sorts of things prior in your private businesses.
Yes.
Now this is a nonprofit.
Yes.
So
we were lucky enough to have supporters who really did want to support us as a nonprofit. And they kept saying, people asked us over and over, why aren't you a nonprofit? And, as small business owners, we're like, we're not really sure we're there yet. And then it just, it really did evolve naturally that way. As we just more and more found ourselves talking, educating people, advocating, and people finally said, we can really be collaborative and support you if you are a 501c3, which we are. And we're fortunate that we did have, the festivals, the guides, and the store that we were already established, but then now we're able to do so much more in terms of, like I mentioned the programs for the local makers, and those are all, free for them to do. We've been running a micro grant program for downtown Hyannis businesses, and to provide them with direct capital support. It was a pilot program in Hyannis, and we really want to take it Cape wide. It's been a great source of, I think, hope for them. I mean, they're, like I said, they're micro grants, but I think we landed on a sweet spot where this is an amount that will make a difference, that can really change things for you, whether you're elevating your interior space or your online space. So that could mean a new website. It could mean social media help. It could mean a new dressing room if you needed an additional dressing room in your store. I mean, these are all like real things that happen. And so we've been able, Love of Local, what we do is we manage each of those cases, and we connect those local businesses with local service providers. So if they need a new website, it's a web developer on Cape Cod. So we're reinvesting that money back into the Cape and kind of matching them with the right fit. And it takes a lot of, not only financially, some of the pressure off of our local businesses, but not even knowing where to start to look for these things. And we're helping them through, and then we walk with them all the way through the process until the job is done. And it's been, like I said, the pilot program in Hyannis was incredibly successful, and we're looking for, funding to keep it going and to expand it. I would really love to do it across Cape Cod, and that's called the Local Business Boost Program. And we've been able to give out 70% of the grants went to female-owned businesses, and 40% went to BIPOC-owned businesses. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, we've been able to really kind of make a difference to people who don't necessarily have access to capital. So
right, and it's amazing. And I was looking at the grants that you've given. $277,000.
So that is in combination with when COVID hit, because we literally became a nonprofit January 2020, and we're raring to go. We're going to go, and then we get shut down 2 months later. But honestly, it was a time when local businesses needed advocacy. Yeah. So we really kind of spoke up in a lot of ways during the pandemic for our local businesses, whether it be with local policymakers, state policymakers, federal policymakers. But then what we did do is launch the Cape Cod Resilience Fund, and we were able to give out about $130,000 in grants during COVID and that was all because the community wanted to step up and support. And then beyond that, the local business boost, we've been able to give away over $150,000, and
it's wild.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, it feels really good, and I just think when we invest in our local businesses, it comes back into the community tenfold.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times we know about your big festivals, right?
Yeah.
And you've done 40 festivals.
Yes.
There's a huge amount of people artists that are in this shop and all over that I know that do it every year. And it's just a huge thing. But you guys do so much more than that.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think, the festivals, I absolutely love them. Love Local Fests are, 3 of the best days of the year. Now it's narrowed down to 3. We started the first year we were doing 6, and then we kind of narrowed it down and figured out July is like the good, we've got our visitors here. We've got our second homeowners here. We've got one in September for our locals to come. It's, we get the place back to ourselves and we celebrate. And then we have a holiday, one that is just pure, holiday shopping, support local. And the Love Local Fests, I mean, they are our mission in action, really. They're local bands, local makers, local brands, local food trucks. Everything is local. And then we put our messaging, all around we want it to be a day for the community to come together, but also a day for the community to recognize that, our local businesses are really key to the vitality of our community.
100%. And the other thing too, the gift guide is related to the fall season, holiday season. And this past year you had this great project. So that was a huge success. And I won't say too much. I'll let you talk about it more, but the Shift Local pledge, which had huge results. So can you tell me a little about that?
Yeah. And that was really an extension of, once we became a nonprofit, we were able to get grant funding to do research and data analysis on our local community. So we were able to really dial into if you spend $100 at a local business, how much of that really stays in the local community when you compare it to when you spend it with a box store or an online corporation. And the data that we have gathered over the last few years and the reports that we have been able to produce show that local businesses, in fact, reinvest 1.5 to 4 times the amount of money into the local economy when you compare it to their corporate competitors. And when you think about online, unless you are shopping online with a Cape Cod based business, none of that money really stays here. So, and in our data reporting and data analysis, we found that if you shifted 10% of your retail spending, just current spending, not new spending, from a national business to an independent business on Cape Cod, it would generate $112 million more for the local economy every year.
Wow.
That's just 10%.
Right.
And so we were like, okay, let's put this into action, right? And so during the holiday season, we asked people to sign a pledge to shift at least 10% of their spending to local businesses during the holiday season. This is when, obviously people are shopping a lot, and they will have the opportunity to think local first. And that's what we really wanted to present them with. So we asked people to sign the pledge, and we had 166 people signed the pledge this year, which was actually way beyond our expectations. And they, on average, spent a little over $1,000 a piece at local businesses. Collectively, they visited 309 local businesses. And that generated over $175,000 in sales. And that's just 166 people.
Right.
And so we're really looking forward to this year blowing that number out of the water. Yeah. And we're fortunate the Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod is going to sponsor the effort this year so that we can really get the word out to more people. And once they sign the pledge, we then send them resources. So it's not just like you sign the pledge and you're on your own.
Right.
We give them tips and tricks on where to find stuff, including our gift guide. It's a great guide to try to find local items and unique items for people that you love. But we are here to answer people's questions. Like if they want to know where to find something locally, we're able to help them. And if people don't have it in stock, there are so many businesses that will try to find it. I mean, when we asked the people to report out after they signed the pledge and after the shopping season, they had to save their receipts, and send us their totals and where they went shopping. And then we asked them to tell us stories. And the amount that our local businesses go above and beyond for their customers, it's just, I mean, it's, you know it, but then when you're reading these stories, it was so heartwarming. I mean, there was one woman who had completely forgotten to get this Taylor Swift sweatshirt for her daughter that she wanted. And it was like nowhere to be found. And it was 2 days before Christmas. She reached out to she's a local vendor at our festivals, and she made her the sweatshirt and delivered it on Christmas Eve and was able to make that girl's Christmas. And it's just, you don't get that from Amazon.
No.
know, so there were some really special stories. So that was, that whole initiative was, really got me in the holiday spirit.
Yeah, 100%. And a huge success. And I mean, that was just year one, right? And so 62% of the spending of some of the people, right?
Well, and that was the amazing thing was we asked for 10% and collectively on average, it was people spent 62% of their budgets here locally. Yeah. So again, we're just scratching the surface there.
Right.
There's a lot more people that we can reach. And so we spend the rest of the year kind of trying to put aside some misperceptions that people have about shopping local. Mm-hmm. Like it's more expensive, which isn't necessarily the case, that it's not as convenient, which also isn't necessarily the case, or that local businesses won't have what they need, which is also not necessarily the case.
Right.
And we also try to share with people that, in addition to that it's better for our local economy to shop local because that money is recirculated over and over and over again. And the fact that our businesses go above and beyond for us and that they do amazing things for this community, it's also better for our own well-being. I wrote a piece for our monthly email that talked about, people need other people. And when you're shopping online and you're not having that human interaction, your well-being is actually being degraded. And so when you go out to a local store and you're actually forming a relationship with the shop owner, the staff, or the local makers, and you're hearing their stories, it really enhances your life so much more. I mean, it's a basic human need, is that need for connection. So,
yeah,
I think it's just, getting out of the routine of maybe surfing online.
Yeah,
that could take hours too.
Yeah, 100%.
Hours of your life. Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, the COVID timing for your 501c3 probably in the end was the best case scenario because we need that community now more than ever. Yeah. And shopping local was you were pioneering that, but now people are like, oh, maybe that really does matter.
Yeah, and I mean that is a really good point. I always say I would give the pandemic back in a heartbeat, but we had been saying for years and years and years, trying to spread this message about the importance of local business. And it was really then that people because they could potentially see what the future would look like without them. Mm-hmm. But what we're here to communicate is that we're not safe. Like it's not just because we have a canal and bridges between us. We are not safe from what goes on over the bridge. And there are policy choices that are being made in Washington, D.C. that favor corporations. And that means, our local grocery stores are not able to get as much of the supply as they would like to because the big guys like Walmart are actually making deals with these suppliers and saying you can't sell to other people, which is anti-competitive and technically illegal, but, they have to be reined in by the government. And so, and there are market forces. We are not on a level playing field. Local businesses are just not on a level playing field with the big guys. And so, we try to remind people like we have this amazing community here who is really supportive. But it's a practice. Like we've got to keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it and keep talking about it and keep telling our friends about these great experiences that we had shopping local. I have, I had a friend who was getting surgery and I wanted to send her gift basket. I ordered it from Ring Brothers online and they delivered it to her. And it was the easiest thing I've ever done. And, mm-hmm. So I think there are these, I always say, check your assumptions at the bridge because our local businesses really do, can be just as responsive, convenient, communicative, all of that as the big guys. You just got to know where to look, but also be open to it and receptive to it. So
totally. Yeah. And so speaking to being receptive to how these businesses operate and all that there is on Cape Cod. So another thing that you all do is these fantastic reports. So there, the service provider report, yeah. I was reading that, and that has a lot to do with, hey, like when you support a local business,
yeah,
this is the trickle down effect.
Yeah.
And then the energy report, which I was interested in. So tell me a little bit about the reports.
Sure. So that was something, again, that we were able to do because we became a 501c3. And so every year we call them our local matters reports. And the first year we did a quantitative analysis on retail and restaurants and hotels and how much they recirculate into the community. And when I say recirculate into the community, I mean it's the owner's profits, which some business owners would laugh about. The owner's profits, the wages paid to locals, municipal taxes, donations to local nonprofits, which cannot be underestimated. I mean, those are huge. The amount that our local businesses show up for our local nonprofits is huge. And so all of that, gets recirculated here so much more when you shop local. That was our first one. And we have these reports, and then we have these infographics that we develop that go along with them. So it's easy digestible bits of information.
Yeah.
And then the second year I did a deep dive into 7 economic sectors that had been most impacted by corporate concentration, and then talked to people in those sectors that are local businesses, asking them how it impacted them. And that's food and farming. It's waste hauling. It's broadband. It's local newspapers. All of these things that have been these sectors that have been significantly impacted by corporate concentration. And when I say corporate concentration, I mean, when you go into the grocery store now and you think you have this plethora of choice because there are all these brands, but most of those brands are owned by 11 different companies.
Yeah.
And that happens in most sectors. There's the, pharmacies. If you notice, we don't really have local pharmacies on Cape Cod. We have one, and it is in Hyannis, and she is a rock star. And the fact that she is so dedicated to being there and showing up for the community is huge. But there is a reason for that. And that is because there are these pharmacy benefit managers that are these middlemen between the pharmacies and the pharmaceutical companies. But the biggest pharmacy benefit manager is owned by CVS. So they own the company that is working as a go-between between the pharmacies and the drug companies. Who do you think they're going to favor when they're setting prices for those?
Right.
They're going to favor themselves. So, we took a look at that and then interviewed local business owners to find out their experiences. But also, and a lot of them were obviously very positive about this community in particular, but also very much recognize that there are forces at work that, that they have to deal with. Banking is another one.
Right.
Our local banks are amazing partners. They got so many small businesses through COVID.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people who don't live on Cape Cod who have big banks, and they if they were a small business, they barely got even talked to during COVID to get, any help. So, we are very, very lucky that those banks, they recirculate their investment here in the community in significant amount of ways. So there's a report on that. And then the next one, because we were hearing from service providers like lawyers, real estate agents, and accountants, and gyms, and people, they were saying to us, we feel left out of this shop local conversation, this think local first conversation. A lot of people do think retail, restaurants, but there are not necessarily these brick and mortars that are also coping. I mean, lawyers are competing with online services now, and accountants are competing with online services. And so we wanted to measure that. And, none of it was a surprise that they, again, recirculate way more into the local economy than their corporate competitors. And this was the other infographic that we we produce that goes along with that report. So again, you don't have to read these long reports if it's not your jam. Those are for, you know, the like policy wonks, and I mean they're actually pretty readable. But and then we partnered with Cape Cod Compact. They really wanted to get the message out that, you know, our small businesses do use quite a bit of energy, which you know, we see the effects of climate change locally, and that is something that you know, we all want to be responsible citizens. We care about this place, and we love living local. So we want to, you know, be good caretakers. And so we wanted to help Cape Cod Compact get that message out there and they have programs to help small businesses really reduce their use of energy. And there are, a lot of them are, the work to be done is subsidized by, I mean, we all pay into it when we pay our electricity bills. So may as well access it. So we did a lot. That report was specifically focused on small businesses and energy use. So we're really trying to just educate and advocate as much as we can.
Yeah. And I think it was 22% of the electricity is small business.
Yeah.
That was a surprise.
It's a big number. Yeah. It's a big number.
Yeah. Actually, I've got Mass Save coming out to insulate the attic here.
That's great.
On Monday, I think.
Yeah. That's great.
For Joe Mamas and for my unit.
Yeah.
For Trove. And so that's subsidized. And since at the time we were both renting, and so it was subsidized in full.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people know about that stuff being out there.
I know. And that's what, you know, we try to, anytime, like I was talking about those micro grant programs, a lot of the business will be like, oh, my lighting. And I'm like, call Cape Cod Compact, and they will come out and they will replace your lighting for free. And, you know, they're just trying to get the word out about these programs, and then it saves you money.
Yeah.
So that's the other part is like, you know, yes, it's impacting, you know, the environment and the energy use is high, but let's help our bottom line.
Right.
You know, they are able to get, you know, there was a small market that we worked with through the local business boost program, and they got a new refrigerator for their, and that was subsidized, and it's much more energy efficient, and they're able to see a difference in their energy bills already. So yeah.
It's interesting that you say there's only one, just to take a step back, to the one locally owned pharmacy. And, you know, here I am across the Walgreens. I watched the sunset over Walgreens, you know, and then I've got the CVS over here. And then the town, speaking of banks, there was going to be another CVS towards Route 6. And then that didn't work out for CVS, which I was like, okay, that's fine. We don't need, how many do we need? But then now it's going to be a Chase Bank, I just saw. And not to like, but I mean, Cape Cod 5's right here. So, and the resources Chase has is just tremendous. So I do wonder what something like that will do to this community as far as banking. Like a lot of people have second homes here, and they might already have Chase, and they might have been using Cape Cod 5, and now they're not, maybe they're going to go to Chase. So I just wonder, we, as small business oriented as Cape Cod can feel, there's still a lot of big corporate infrastructure here. And I think that is, I've seen a lot of it happening, and you're fighting the good fight, obviously, to try to support these small businesses and cooperating with all these and collaborating with these smaller banks too, local banks. Yeah.
And I can't say, I mean, we used to have many, many more local banks. And now we're down to 3, and maybe, 4, because Martha's Vineyard Bank also has, locations on the mainland. But yeah, I mean, it's a concern. And hopefully people will receive the incredible customer service that you receive from the local bank and recognize that you know, that is a plus. And I think another thing is people probably think local banks don't have as much, again, convenience or the technology, but they truly do. You know, I bank with both the Cooperative Bank and Cape Cod 5, you know, on the Mid Cape, and their online services are amazing, and I can't say enough good things about both of them. That's like, you know, that's a very good point, because it's like we're not immune to this, and I'm not saying there's not a role for national businesses at all. I'm just saying that, the proof is in the data, that they just don't, they want to extract wealth from the community.
Yeah.
They aren't giving back to the community.
Right.
And I'm sure Chase Bank will say, oh, well, you can apply for our grant programs or whatever that every other community across the country is applying for. So, it's, I think this is where we do go out and talk to municipalities. I had a great presentation with the Orleans Select Board, the Harwich Select Board, who, invited me to come speak about this. And I'm happy to talk to them about their role, as much as they can do. The municipal government has a role in supporting our local businesses as well. So, I think keeping that in mind, like I always say, look at everything through a local business lens. And it's like, is this going to be good for our local businesses? Is it not?
Right.
And we'd much prefer to have local ownership here. It's just, it's better for our communities.
Yeah. And it's simplistic, but every single corporate chain that has a big store out here is, like you said, they're farming the money out of the community. And yeah, maybe a couple jobs are created. Maybe a couple of those executives buy a house out here and that like boosts a small portion of the economy. But most of the profit out of that new Chase Bank is going to the corporate headquarters and to the shareholders, not to Cape Cod.
No. And, and I think when a lot of corporations do locate in small communities, they always say jobs. They always say they're bringing jobs.
Right.
But what the reality is like, you're also responsible for eliminating jobs at the same time. So there's actually a net negative. There's been multiple studies done on this across the country, specifically having to do with Walmart. But they, when Walmart goes into a community, they say they're bringing jobs, which are they the kinds of jobs the community needs? Who knows? That's first of all, and then second of all, the community wealth doesn't grow when Walmart. So people are spending the same amount of money as they would have before. So they shifted that money to Walmart away from a local business.
Right.
And so that local business is going to have to downsize or close. So that's where the net negative comes in. So that when people, and also small businesses are the great job creators in our country, and they have been.
And the innovators.
Except because of corporate concentration, innovation gets squelched quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a natural course that we go down to have to compete against the big dogs. And I think that's why you and I are passionate about it and want to build that strength up in the community. And you do a heck of a lot more than what I do, but it's really impressive. I mean, if people do have some time to go to the website and read about the values and the purpose of Love Live Local, it's really impressive and well thought out. And so, I won't read through them all now, but I'll post the link in the episode. This will be on YouTube. The first video today. I'm pretty excited about it. I'm working on this, but I couldn't have had a better one, Amanda, to be on for this. So the links will be in the YouTube list and also in all of the links below the podcast information for the website. And also the mission that you all have been pursuing is just so impressive and again, really well thought out. So I wanted to ask though about the annual reports that you do, because that's a whole other thing that has a huge amount of information that you give to the community as part of what you all are doing. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of nonprofits do produce annual reports just to kind of sum up their year. And it is a way for us to communicate, to share our history, but also look back at the year that we just had, and how it went, the growth. And this past year we had, huge growth. We brought on our first, aside from myself and Jen as co-founders, like our first full-time employee, which was incredible. And made it so that we were able to be out in the community more and working harder and on behalf of our local businesses a lot more. So, we were able to do that this past year. And then in the annual reports, we just outline kind of all the work that we do. And, it's really about connecting the community, supporting our economy, and celebrating Cape Cod. And that's really what we want to be able to do. And then, so everything that we look at our annual report and we're like, did that feed into our mission? And you know, I'm happy to say that yes, it has. And we can hopefully continue to do the programming that we do and the advocacy that we do. And I want to continue educating. I think when people are armed with the information and they hear and see the data, you know, at least they'll take pause, and maybe not, and I'm again, just 10%, you know, shifting 10%. And, you know, and that makes a huge difference for our local economy. And if anyone wants to, ask where to find things or someone locally to, do their taxes or anything like that, we're happy to help point them in the right direction too.
And to that, I'll have the link in there again, but the website is
lovelivelocal.com. So we always say lead with the heart, love, live local.
Love it. Love it. So there's a huge amount on the website and a ton of resources. And so you've got this great mission. You've accomplished so much. What do you think the future will hold? What are your ambitions for the future?
Yeah. I'd really like to, we are always open to hearing from our local businesses, what they need from us. We do not want to duplicate. There are a lot of great local business organizations. We are not a membership organization, so we don't take membership dollars, and we are, you know, we leave that the membership stuff up to, like, we have a lot of great local business organizations, membership organizations. So, you know, and we collaborate with them all the time. But, you know, we would like to obviously continue to grow what we've been doing, continue the programming that we've been doing, the microgrant program. It would be huge. What we have heard from a lot of food entrepreneurs that, you know, they'd love to be able to access more resources and different resources. So we're looking into that and how we can help there. And that, you know, so that they can ultimately wholesale to off Cape and export their product. And so, you know, we hear from them and then we look into it to see how we can be helpful. And, you know, my ultimate dream is to start a community investment fund where regular people can invest in local businesses. And that is something that was made legal in the Obama administration, because usually you have to be a accredited investor to be able to do that. And I would love to be able to create an investment fund where you, me, anybody could put $1,000 in and get a return on their investment by, you know, loaning that money out to our local businesses. That's kind of like my long-term
I
goal.
love that.
Yeah. I just, it's like, you know, shift that money away from Wall Street when you can get the same return on your investment with local business owners. So why wouldn't we want to invest in Main Street instead? So that's something, a pipe dream down the road. But we're always looking at how we can partner and collaborate. We heard from our local business owners that housing is a huge, huge challenge for them, not just for their staff, but for themselves. And so we have been partnered with Housing Assistance Corporation and Housing to Protect Cape Cod to really get that messaging, to get our small businesses involved and engaged in that, in advocating for housing here on the Cape. And then we will be advocates for it as well.
Yeah. And actually, to the housing and to your previous comment about your ambition, I know that in some of the inner city areas, some entrepreneurs have started corporations and they've almost been selling bonds to the community to buy back their community.
Which is a beautiful thing. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yep. So now you can buy a bond, or however it's registered as far as the corporation, but you can buy into you can buy a city block with your friends and rehabilitate it and keep it as part of your community. And that's what, I mean, so you're on it. I love it.
And I mean, that that kind of a fund will take significant investment up front,
Right.
and that's why I'm like, it's my dream.
I love it.
Yeah, but I just keep putting it out there.
Yeah. Manifest.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when you start that, just let me know because I want to get involved.
I know.
So it's just an awesome idea. And yeah, do we need housing out here? Like, man.
Yeah.
So one thing I didn't say earlier, so it's 539 South Street is the brick and mortar in Hyannis.
Yep.
And for anyone who's been through Hyannis, whereabouts is that?
So we're on the West End. So near the West End Rotary. It's right where Main Street and South Street either merge or split depending on which direction you're heading in. I call it our shop fist because we've got our offices there and our shop. And then we also have a local designer, clothing designer has her studio there. So she is there most days sewing away. Cool. So it's also, that it's a workspace for a local maker. And then Belonging Books, which is a pop-up bookstore. She sells books that are written by BIPOC authors, LGBTQIA, and it's a very curated collection of books that she sells at pop-up events, but we've given her, or not given her, but we are partnering with her. She's taken some of the space in our shop now too. So Belonging Books is popped up. She's got a little permanent pop-up at our shop for now, and we're so excited to have her. And I have a bit of a reading problem, so every day I'm walking by the bookshelves being like, do I need that book?
Right.
And then we have Wash Ashore Bakery out back. We have a little... not a little, it's like a kitchen, and
cool.
So she's making really tasty goodies out there. So
that's gotta be dangerous.
Yeah, a little collective there. So
yeah, well, no, that's awesome, and I think at least to go visit is fun and see Amanda and Jen and the team.
Yeah,
maybe get some cool baked goods.
Yeah,
and a good book.
Maybe a dress or a shirt. Yeah,
right. No, I love it. The publications 17,000.
Yeah, so the publications, we put out 17,000 every year. So the field guide comes out in June and the gift guide comes out in November, and then they are blanketed across the Cape. And like I said before, they are complimentary, so we put them wherever we'll take them. So our advertisers and great retail partners will take them, but there are so many local coffee shops that give us space on their counters, and we're really grateful to that. And we put them Falmouth to Provincetown, and that goes for both publications. And then we are now a bi-monthly email, so we send an email twice a month. I promise it's fun. It's not, we do a calendar of events, so we curate a list of events for people to get out and enjoy their local, and then we also have a calendar on our website that's much more robust. But and then we do we'll do either, whether it's advocacy articles or just talking about local makers, or talking about our festivals. So we've got a lot of good content in there that is ready for people to consume if they sign up.
And it looks like it's pretty easy on the website to get on to the newsletter.
Yeah.
Now, if somebody wants to get involved and be in the festival, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, so they can also go to our website. There's a fests tab, and there's vendor information there. And then applications open at the beginning of April for the summer season. And we have about 80 spots in the summer and then 120 spots for the December fest. So we really try to curate an experience that's good for the consumer and good for the local makers and brands. So we're really mindful about, how many of certain types of businesses are there, and try to make sure that it's a good mix, and that it's something that we know who comes to the festivals. And so we're pretty in tune with who's going to respond to what. So, we try to curate it pretty well. And then, people can find out at on the website about the festivals, and then so the retail store is really, the festivals are a feeder program. So you have to participate in our festivals in order to be considered for the retail store. because it's generally people coming looking for stuff that they saw at the festival.
Right.
So, yeah.
No, that's great. And I like that you do curate the vendors. Like you don't want to have 3 unicycle sales companies at the same thing, you know?
Yeah. And we try to be incredibly mindful of that. And then, you know, even in their placement, you know, we try to be really, really mindful of who's where and provide, like, it's better for the vendor and it's better for the customer for sure.
Totally. So you've done a lot. What did you study? Like, where did you come from? What is?
That's a good question. I know it's kind
of. What are you?
Yeah. Interestingly, so I actually was born and raised in Falmouth.
Okay.
And so I grew up on Waquoit Bay, which is this incredible spot that, like, I always say it's the house that built me is Waquoit Bay. And because of growing up there, I became an environmentalist very, very young age, and actually went to school for environmental studies, my undergrad, and then I went to graduate school for public policy with an environmental policy focus. But I think I've just always been an advocate. My mom actually worked for Housing Assistance Corporation for 25 years, and I grew up in that office. And you know, she was always like helping people. And it was something that I think always stuck with me. And you know, my father was a sports writer for the Cape Cod Times, and so very embedded in the community in that way too. And he definitely gives back to the community in through sports. And so I think, you know, that's really what formed me. And then I came back to the Cape after graduate school. I was in Washington, D.C. I didn't like it. And which was odd because I thought that's where I was going to end up. And that was where my life was going to be. And I was going to work for the EPA or something. And then realized that nothing happens in Washington, D.C.
No. So
then it was really like, okay, where can I make a difference? And it's really your local is where, you know, advocacy, you really do have a voice. I mean, where else could we be doing all of this, you know, and have the support that we do and have the platform that we do. And I think the community is just really responsive. And I started working for the Hyannis Main Street Business Improvement District. And just as, you know, a stopgap in between what I was going to figure out for my life. And it was the first time working with small businesses. And I didn't know before that how important they were to the community. And it just hadn't, again, and that's why I'm like, oh, all you need is education, because I didn't know. And then once I knew, I'm a complete reformed TJ Maxx shopper. I do not do that anymore. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, okay. Now that I know this, and now I have the tools and the knowledge to actually, you know, fulfill my needs in a more productive and healthy way for the community, I'm going to do that. So it was really the bid that opened my eyes to that. And then I had an eco boutique. So it was kind of a marriage of the two. I was like, I'm going to open my own business in 2009 during a recession. No big deal. And it was, you know, the eco boutique was, it was a passion of mine. And there I did a lot of education as well, because people didn't know about the fashion industry and why do we need organic cotton? Why is fair trade important? So you know, that definitely gave me a platform for that as well.
Yeah. And the thing, what you said, and you really nailed it, is the change is going to come locally. And a lot of times people are like, man, if we could just elect the right person at the presidential spot, it'll all be better. No. Like, it's not changing from the president. It's not a top-down thing. No. And you're embodying what actual change is, which is working with local people in the local community to build a stronger community. Yeah. And I love that. And that's what all of us should be working towards, because the real change is what you're doing. It's
hyper local. And we always, every election day, we say vote local. Like, you have to know about your local election. Local elections matter so much more than, I mean, state matters. We have great, you know, state representatives, and but we've got to keep great people in those positions. And then, but you know, federally, sure, it all impacts our lives, but like really, you know, day to day, it really is local.
Yeah. And it really builds towards it should be that the foundation builds what the top should look like.
Yeah.
And we haven't quite had that.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know if it's like, the American kind of obsession with kind of celebrity or that like one, or maybe it's just it's not American. Maybe it's just human, needing to have this one figure,
Right.
that whether you hate them or you love them, it's that one figure to fixate on, when it really is. I mean, if you look at even the federal government, it's like hundreds of people who are working their butts off every day,
right,
to do what, to make the country work. And it's
right.
the same here. Like the Cape has incredible people working on behalf of, the towns and every day. And I see that. I work with them. I interact with them, and I'm always so impressed with the caliber of people that we have here. But they also need to be educated, and that's why I like to go to the select boards, and and really share with them, our research, and to say it's not just because it feels good and because these are our neighbors and constituents and voters. It really is, economically just makes so much more sense for us to support our local businesses.
100%. The local businesses, and just a plug for Michael Herman. He's a select board member in Orleans, and I've had him on the podcast talking about pesticides, and he's running for the Sarah Peaks position.
Yeah.
So that's somebody who's been committed to this this Lower Cape area and Cape Cod in general, but he's running for the position at a much higher level in the state now. That's the type of person that, and I'm not saying anything against whoever his opponents are, but that's the type of person that's invested at the foundational level. Mm-hmm. And that's the type of people we need, because that's what's going to eventually, hopefully, again, build that foundation towards the state government. Yeah. That's like, okay, here's when the state makes a decision on how small business money is going to be allocated and grants are going to get allocated. You want people that have been at the ground level. You don't want somebody to come out with a poli-sci degree that's like a career politician. They're never going to understand what you and I understand of a small business world. They can read about it all day, but unless you live it, and you're living it. And so you can really talk to a small business owner and say, hey, here's the real advice.
Yeah.
I've done this.
I've done that. I mean, I've been through it. I have, and Jen also, in addition to co-founding Love of Local, when she owned a gallery and a juice bar, she also owns the West End in Hyannis. So she owns a 250-seat restaurant with her husband, and she's still, in that every single day. And we've both been there, and we can definitely empathize. And it was one of the best experiences of my life owning that shop, but it was also one of the hardest. Mm-hmm. And it is really challenging. And I feel like there is value in being honest and about the challenges. And so I like to say, like, we are here to talk about those challenges. Business owners don't need to, we'll talk about it for you. Tell us what your problems are, and we'll tell whoever needs to hear it.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to be here for, is to really, and that, that role came up so much during COVID as people, because obviously people are plugging holes left and right.
Yeah.
But there were random things like business interruption insurance wasn't, paid for. The insurance companies weren't paying out on it because pandemics didn't fall under it. And so then I was like, say no more. We will go to whoever we need to talk to. And I wrote op-eds for the Boston Globe and did all of this advocacy and wrote speeches for state senators and, did all of that stuff. And the insurance industry is a very powerful lobby. That was challenging. But, even third-party delivery apps, saying this is a problem for our local businesses. It's not, it's not as huge here yet, but, I think especially in the Hyannis area, there's DoorDash and also, and they're taking 30% of every sale when restaurants make 5 to 8% on every, and it just doesn't make sense, but they're price gouging them. But now they're locked into this relationship that is hard to extract yourself from. So, those are the types of things that we want to be able to kind of, step in and advocate. So I'm always saying to businesses, tell us what you need, and we'll do our best to help address it.
Yeah. And the advocacy, you do a lot of work, obviously, in the general advocacy, but do you have specific projects that you'll work on, like these that you just referenced, what are the future ones that are coming? I can tell you for sure, from my perspective, we just don't have enough people to work here.
Yeah.
And how do we solve that problem? Because I'm looking to hire for this summer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who? There's nobody. I mean, there are some, but
yeah, it's well, in that, I would say, I think this place is a very desirable place to come. It's just there's nowhere to live.
Right.
There's nowhere to. I mean, we can't get our visa holders to be able to get housing here. We can't. I mean, the housing it's a huge issue. And I imagine as we get further and further away from the bridges too, because you're not going to get people coming over the bridge for a job like that. It's just not. So that is a huge challenge. And that's why we're getting into the, housing advocacy. And that unfortunately, it's going to take a while. What's crazy about it is when my mother was working for Housing Assistance Corporation when I was a kid, I remember her talking about workforce housing and how we needed more. Yeah. And that was in the 80s.
Right.
So I mean, and so they saw it. Yeah. It's just, I think sometimes human nature is wait till it's a crisis and then we'll, there are things happening. It just means there are things happening, but people need to continue to speak up and talk about this very issue. Like we are looking to, we're trying to hire for our program manager role. And I spoke to somebody who was a really good candidate and they live in Connecticut she was like, so what's the housing situation? I was like, okay, bye. Right. I just, and I hate to say that. And I feel I'm incredibly lucky to be in a housing situation that I'm in, locked that in, but it's a continual challenge. And we also hear from local businesses that it's very challenging to navigate the town a lot, and that goes for every town, every town that, has small businesses. It's just navigating the permitting system and all of that is a challenge. And so we're going to look at that and see, how can we help in that regard? And is there a way to communicate with the towns to figure out can we remedy this?
Yeah.
And whether it's perception or not, perception, can sometimes be reality. So we just want to see if we can help. And the other piece that we're looking at is procurement. There's our local governments spend a ton of money and we want to make sure they're spending it with local businesses whenever they can. And those local businesses can be anything from, a bakery to a lawyer to a printer, but also, obviously there are big construction projects too that we have great local companies that can do some of those as well. So
yeah. Especially if you're in the sewer business or the excavation.
Yes, we're dealing with that in Hyannis right now. So.
Yeah, Orleans has been having a lot of fun with it. Yeah. I was just talking to the town manager about it, and it's same in Harwich, where I live. It's gonna be a 10-year thing. Yep.
We've got a 30-year plan in Barnstable, and they have to do it. It's not a choice at this point, and I'm looking forward to it. I think it's great. I obviously very much care about our water quality, and it will also enable some growth that we need in terms of housing.
Right.
But yeah, it's hard. They are digging up right in front of our store today and yesterday. So I was just like, it's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah. Well, Molly Avalar down at Adorn, and they've been working on that line. So it's like people had to detour to get to East Orleans, and it's been a real challenge, a logistical challenge. But again, that's what's been nice in Orleans that I've seen is that the select board and the contractors and the town manager, they're working together at doing it as with the least interruption as possible, when it is 100% critical that we get these things done because the water quality is.
I mean, I can't imagine having to schedule those projects. So, and let alone execute them. But that's why it's like, we've got to give them grace. And then, but if we are seeing there's an issue, like, can we have signage that says the businesses are open? They will be responsive. We just have to speak up.
Right.
You know, and so I think that, you know, that communication goes both ways. And I do think a lot of times people will hesitate to say anything, or because they don't feel like it's like almost feels like a house on a hill, like you can't talk, but I know that the town manager in Orleans would say the opposite, like, you know, their doors are open to the public. And so would the town of Barnstable, where I am. And I would say, I would venture guess that every town on Cape Cod is ready to kind of help the public and listen to the public.
Yeah. And it is, I mean, the sewer thing is so big out here, and it will, and what sometimes people do forget, I think, is that, and you mentioned it, is that, well, now the structures that you can build can be a multifamily building. Now that's like blasphemy to some people when you say multifamily, but that's what we need. We need workforce housing. We need dorms of like where people can actually live. And Jen, for instance, with the restaurant, so in the next month, you and I and every business out here is going to be looking for staff.
Yep.
And I just don't know this year.
Yeah.
Where are they going to come from? And again, I'm not saying that there's no talent on Cape Cod. It's like, it's not that there's nobody here. They're already working.
Yeah, they're already working.
You know, and who's going to be popping up to be like, I'll work all summer.
Yeah. No, it's really challenging, and it can put businesses out of business.
Yeah.
And at the very least, we've seen businesses having to reduce their hours because they don't have the staff.
Yep.
So it is a huge challenge. And like you said, the infrastructure that is developing right now is going to allow for different housing options. You know, it's been single family for, you know, way too long here on the Cape, single family only. And I'm not saying we shouldn't build any more single family homes. It's more, we need other types of housing availability.
Yeah.
You know, I know when I moved back to the Cape, I didn't want to live in a single family home. I would have loved to have lived in an apartment somewhere. I came from a city, like I was in an apartment. I didn't want a yard. I don't want to, you know, like all of those things. So, you know, there are different, and I do feel like, you know, if I didn't have housing availability then when I first came back through my family, and now through family, you know, an affordable and attainable option, I would not be here. And so I think that's an important message. Like, you know, if people think I'm valuable to this community, think about the so many people that can't stay here who are just as valuable because they don't have housing options, or never come at all.
I think that you're seeing a lot of the never come at all. Yeah. And it's just a critical issue. And so I think, you know, you obviously are already on it as far as an advocacy project. And I think as much as people want to enjoy Cape Cod and have that single family small town feel, there's just not enough housing that's affordable, and there's kind of no argument anymore. And so it's been a long time coming. Since the 80s it was a problem, and it seems to have been getting more severe, especially after the pandemic, when the housing prices out here went up 30-40%, and interest rates, you know, we all know this, but it's impossible to get a house out here.
Yep. And
so you're losing, basically it's high school students, and then I don't know, J1s in the summer, and
because they won't J1, you know, the companies that match them with opportunity, you have to prove that you have housing before they'll match them.
Good luck, right?
So, you know, so I think we're in for another like tight labor force summer, for sure. And then, you know, as always, our businesses adjust, they innovate, they work their butts off, and, you know, and make it happen. But it's, you know, it's a huge challenge. And I think when you're presented with those really, really big challenges in your business, it's like should we reevaluate what we're doing? But, but I think, you know, like I said, they've always figured out a way to make things work. So, you know, I'm confident they will do the same and, this summer and beyond, but we've got to also use our voices. And we will advocate as much as we possibly can, but then there are times that we need, you know, the rest of the business community to show up. And I think that the housing issue is definitely one where the business community needs to show up, to meetings and public comments, and just saying like, it doesn't have to be on the agenda for that night of a select board or a town council meeting. It's you just show up and say like, I'm just here to share my story.
Yeah.
And those people are elected to listen to you. So they asked to be there to listen to you. So, so definitely make your voice heard. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's progress being made in some areas towards the goal, but very little tangible progress. More,
so far, yeah.
More, okay, we should do this.
Yeah.
Now it's the how. And again, it's that double-edged sword of, all right, what makes Cape Cod so special is that you don't have big towering towers.
And we don't need to have that.
Right.
Right?
It can be aesthetic.
There's great like examples in Orleans of apartments and multifamily that are, you don't even notice.
Right.
So there are definitely ways to do it, and best practices, and to be honest, I mean, the more housing is better for local businesses, not just because they will have a workforce, but because they'll also have more customers. So, I think it's definitely, we've got to there's a lot in the works, and there are a lot of people working on it, but shovels in the ground would be really nice.
Right. And again, back to the sewer thing, but so look at Provincetown, look at the density in Provincetown.
Yeah.
But nobody likes Provincetown. Wait, they all love
Everybody
Provincetown.
loves Provincetown. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Everyone loves it. So, or it's like an old English town where you've got 3-4 stories.
Yeah. I mean, I look at Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and I'm like, there's no reason Hyannis can't be like that. There's no, I don't see a problem with top of shop housing. I mean, I think that is quaint and makes more of like a community feel. And when you've got people actually living in your downtowns and they're, it's more vibrant that way.
100%, a little, what are we in London? Right. Yeah. So, but it's having that feel, and there's very little of that. So it can be aesthetically pleasing. It can be really nice.
Yeah, for sure.
And Provincetown is so special because of that. Yeah. And the city is alive, if you want to call it a city.
Yeah.
It's one of the bigger spots on Cape Cod. It's alive at night because people can go out and get a drink or have a pizza, walk. Yeah.
And walk. Yep.
And so I think I hope that happens. I know they're planning on hopefully doing some rezoning in Orleans now that the sewer's in. Yeah. And I think that not only the community needs to really like show up and be like, hey, yes, please do this. But also the business owners, especially, because man, it's going to change everything for the better. Yeah. So again, it doesn't have to be a 3-story, like weird looking, awful building. It can be a 3-story row of awesome businesses with awesome apartments and condos above. And it just changes everything. And, now from an environmental standpoint, maybe less cars because you can walk to work.
Absolutely.
Man, so anyways.
That's smart growth.
Right.
So, again, best practices.
Right.
Yeah.
And we all want a cool little downtown.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what community feel is all. Our downtowns, are the heartbeat of our communities, and to make them even more kind of vibrant, I think is definitely a plus. Yeah,
100%. So for Love Local, what is, we talked a little bit about your future strategic plans, some of the advocacy things that you're going to be working on. Broadly, what do you see coming outside of those things that you're excited about, that you're feeling like are going to be big success?
Yeah. Well, I do have to say, I am really excited about this year's festival season. Last year in particular, we saw our numbers just skyrocket. And even in the December one, we had 10,000 people, walk through our gates, and I'm really excited about that. I think what we're starting to show is that the Cape is definitely a destination for not just the summer months, and even not just the fall, but like December. I saw like there's so many strolls, and I was here for the Orleans the first time they did that, and it was amazing. And there are very few places that you can experience that type of thing. So I'm really excited this year about our holiday fest. I think that's gonna be another one for the books. And then, we're looking forward to just continuing to level up everything we do. We try to do that every year and make things, better and for both the consumer and our local businesses. So.
And we've talked about it for years, but I'd love to do something in Orleans someday.
Yeah, we're open to it. Yep.
Yeah.
I always say, people ask us to bring, the festival, and we're open to traveling. We will not move our current festivals, but we're open to it, whether it's collaborating with the vendors and stuff. We would love to spread our wings a little bit. We're just looking for the right opportunity for sure.
Yeah. Because you're not busy or anything at this point. No. It's not like...
Not busy at all.
But I would love to see how we could make a cool collaborative thing with Orleans at some point down the line, because you do great things and the resources that you bring to bear are awesome. And just to build a brand more on Lower Cape,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
just let people know. And hopefully people that listen to this say, oh, there's so much more than...
Yeah. And that's what we are. Yes, our location is in Hyannis, but we are an equal opportunity voice for all businesses on Cape Cod. It is not, we are not just a mid-Cape organization. We are definitely a regional organization that, we want to be a voice for everybody. And like I said, send people, I don't want people to go to Barnstable and not be able to find what they're looking for and then go off Cape somewhere or go on. I want them to go to Provincetown to find it instead. And so, we can support each other. All the towns can. So we definitely encourage that quite a bit.
Yeah, no, it's huge. And I do see that after COVID now, we do see even in the smaller communities themselves working together more and being less territorial within the towns, but also across towns.
Yeah.
It seems like it's a whole different world, and it's in a better way.
Yeah.
The collaboration is there. We're really in it together.
We are all in this together for sure.
Yeah. Well, this has been awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. What
Thank
a great
you, Amanda.
conversation.
So, pleasure's all mine, honestly. It's always so fun to talk to you, and you're just doing so much. I wanted to ask just your social tags and, again, the website again and the email, if you could just list those off.
Sure. Our social tags on all platforms is at Love Live Local, and our website is lovelivelocal.com, and hello@lovelivelocal.com is the best email to reach us at. Great.
Awesome. Well, I'll look forward to seeing all the great things you do this year and reading your reports. I'll be advertising with you as well. And I'll list those emails and tags also below in the description. And again, Amanda Converse, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Clark.
All right. Thank you so much to Amanda Converse of Love Live Local for coming in for the interview. You can check out all of her tags. Are going to be listed down below, and all the website information and contact info. And then for the Cape and Islands podcast, you can check us out at capeandislandspodcast.com. You can also follow us at Cape and Islands Podcast just about everywhere. Please follow us on YouTube as well. And also please consider the Patreon account where you can actually donate and help fund this show and keep it going. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.